Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. It's that time once again to win Kevin Miller's money. What do you have to do? Well, you listen at 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. I will give you the cash code words, and you could win up to $5,000. Now, it's not only during the Kevin Miller Show, but it's during the Sean Hannity Show. Listen during the 3 o'clock hour for Sean. And I'll give you the next word. Now, the code word for today in the 8 o'clock hour is vacation. Maybe we all need a vacation after the last hour of the program, a vacation. Go to KIDOTalkRadio.com, type in vacation. The more code words you have, the more chances you have to win up to $5,000. We hope that you win, and we thank you for listening. Also, coming up this hour, we have another 4-pack to the Albertsons Boise Open. Now, these are daily passes that can be used to see Cheap Trick Friday night for the big concert. When you hear Cheap Trick, that's right, playing the classic hits here. When you hear a Cheap Trick song, caller number 10 wins the family-friendly or unfriendly 4-pack to the Albertsons Boise Open to see Cheap Trick or to see whoever you want. We have those tickets for you. You'll have to come to the broadcast center and pick them up. Today is the first day of the Albertsons Boise Open. Joining us now, Dr. Warren Farrell, author of The Boy Crisis, Why Our Boys Are Struggling and What We Can Do About It. Dr. Farrell, thank you for joining us. Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
I'm not joining you. If I'm going to go on vacation and have all your money, and you're going to be running the country, what do I need to do anything but go on vacation for?
Well,
it's a pleasure to join you. Right?
Well, it is. Whatever happened to boys becoming men? Is that out the door these days?
Yes and no, meaning that among boys, when I did the research for the Boy Crisis, I just didn't expect to find the findings that I found, and what I found was good news and bad news. The bad news is that children of divorce who have minimal or no fathers are doing terribly, and there's other factors involved besides children of divorce and minimal and no fathers, but that is, of the 10 causes I was able to identify, that is by far the biggest. And on the other hand, boys that have a lot of father involvement, their fathers are usually more involved than my father was, and certainly more involved than my father's father was. They're out there playing with the kids on the playground. They're making games out of supermarket shopping, taking the the Cheerios box and throwing it into the cart and making shopping fun for the kids, and they're more involved in their future. So we have this huge gap between what I call dad-enriched boys and dad-deprived boys. And the dad-deprived boys, I was just talking to somebody, Superior Court judge in Washington, D.C. yesterday, and she was talking about this huge prison population that she's constantly prosecuting and then re-prosecuting. And I said, what is the percentage of fatherlessness among that prison population? And just without skipping a beat, said, well over 90%, and so that is the number one issue that is separating the boys who are growing up better than our generation grew up, better than I grew up, and versus the boys who are growing up that are subject to being so stressed out and so unable to perform that they go into drugs, and we have the opioid crisis, and they without fatherlessness is the single biggest predictor I found out of committing suicide, and it's the biggest predictor of drugs. And ultimately, long story short, there were more than 70 different major problems that boys had when they didn't have significant father involvement.
Let's get to the heart of the matter. Why do you have people that father children abandoning them and shirking their responsibilities? Is it because we as a society don't expect them to do that anymore? And if you could expand on the consequences of fatherless boys.
Sure, good questions. First, the big group of fatherless boys is in two groups. There's children of divorce, where usually the dads are fighting to be involved with the children, and the most frequent pattern there is that the moms feel that they know what's best for the children, and they've met a new man who they feel will be a better father and better husband, and maybe he's living in the state of Washington, whereas you're living in Idaho, and that prevents the biological father from seeing the child very often. And as it turns out, the biological father is far more, the involvement of the biological father is far more correlated with a child being stable, successful, and the ways I'll talk about in a moment, than a stepfather. The other huge group is that 53% of women under 30 in the United States who have children without being married. Now, somebody could say, well, what's the big deal about marriage? And here's the big deal about it. The children, that means that there's two groups of children among those women who are not married. One is women who minimally know the father, and the child has no contact or minimal contact with the father. And the other is women who are living with men at the time that the child is born, and on average, those children only have father involvement for between 3 and 4 years. When you talk to the father, it's the father and mother. When you talk to the father and the mother and father just feel that they weren't getting along that well, and they made a mutual decision to separate. But what no one is considering is the impact that when parents are married, the father is far more likely to be involved for a significantly greater period of time. When there is a divorce, the children that do best are ones that have about an equal amount of involvement with the father and the mother. When the father and mother live about no more than 20 minutes drive time from each other, so children don't have to give up their friends or activities to see the other parent. Third, that there's no bad-mouthing from mother to father or father to mother. And fourth is that there's constant, in other words, consistent, continuous communication, counseling or relationship counseling that the father and the mother participate in. When those four variables are involved, then the children have a reasonable chance of doing well. The second part of your question, which is, what are the consequences of minimal or no father involvement? The consequences are the child is far less likely, without a dad significantly involved, to have good boundary enforcement. The boundaries are set very similarly by mom and dad. Mom and dad will both say, you can't have your ice cream until you finish your peas. The child will, both girl and boy children will test those boundaries. They'll want to have their ice cream while finishing as few peas as possible, if you will. And the difference is in the boundary enforcement. Mom will sort of tend to say, especially after divorce, this is a very stressful time. I'm working all the time. These are a few precious moments I have with my child. Am I going to get into a battle over a few peas? I don't think so. Okay, sweetie, I'll tell you what, have a couple more peas, and then you can have your ice cream. So the child with the mom learns to manipulate a better deal and to appeal to find out where the mom is soft and where the mom is pliable, and then to exploit that. With the dad, the child's far more likely to say, excuse me, we have a deal here. The deal is, that you can't have your ice cream until you finish your peas. You know what the deal is, I know what the deal is, and you know I know what the deal is. So finish the peas, and you can have the ice cream. And so the child goes, oh, you're so mean. Mommy isn't like that. And dad will be more likely to go, well, you can continue crying and saying I'm mean, and then you won't have any ice cream tomorrow night either.
Right.
And so the child with the dad learns he has to finish his peas. He has to do what he doesn't want to do to get his ice cream, what he really wants to have. And so that teaches the child postponed gratification. That's more likely, postponed gratification is more likely to come from the dad. The ripple effect of postponed gratification and knowing it is the child who knows postponed gratification at school can finish homework much more effectively and not be distracted by incoming texts or offers to do new video games or whatever.
Dr. Farrell, let me just take a break here and remind everybody you're listening to Dr. Warren Farrell with Kevin Miller. He's the author of The Boy Crisis, Why Our Boys Are Struggling, and What We Can Do About It here on KIDO Talk Radio. We go back to men that abdicate their responsibilities. And then in addition to that, we have, it seems to me, that society is making the female the alpha, the male, the less dominant. You see the portrayal in popular culture where the dad's an idiot and mom knows best.
Yes, we've gone from father knows best to father knows less, and that is really dangerous. With the alpha male issue, it's really complex. On the one hand, the mother-dominated homes are far more likely to treat their sons in a sort of very protective type of way, and so if you want a male that's balanced, you need to have a balance of parenting, what I call checks and balance parenting. The mother needs to be, offering the protection and the nurturance and that consistency and that and that knowledge that someone's there and loves the child. But at the same time, the father is far more likely to do things like roughhousing and roughhousing has enormous positive impact on children. And part of what dads need to do, they need to do their homework as to why they're so pivotal as a father. So, for example, if a father is roughhousing with, say, 3 kids, let's say Johnny, Jimmy, and Jane, and they're in that age order, and there may be 9, 7, and 6, let's say, and the dad will typically, throw them on the couch, and the children are ready to, as the children are getting ready to jump on his back to try to pin him down, mom is sitting there going, "Yikes! I just have one more child to monitor, the husband," and she's really scared that something's going to happen, and she believes that sooner or later one of the kids is going to end up crying or they're going to hit their heads, and she's about 100% likely to be correct. And the father and the children jump off the couch onto the dad's back. They pin him down, but in the process of pinning them down, each of them wants to be the person who's a major pinner downer. And they start pushing each other around. And the dad will typically say something like, "Wait a minute, Jimmy, you can't push Jane like that." And then he'll continue the roughhousing. And when he does that, he is sending a signal. If they do continue to do that roughhousing in a way that's inconsiderate of the other child, the dad will usually stop the roughhousing and say, "Okay, I warned you, no more roughhousing tonight." And that, again, is boundary enforcement. It teaches the children, as a result of that boundary enforcement, it teaches the child that the difference between what is being assertive to be able to win in the wrestling versus what is being aggressive and what is being bullying and what is being harmful. And so the data shows that children that have a lot of father involvement, where the father does roughhousing, the children are far more likely to understand the distinction between being assertive and aggressive. That leads to children having far more friends.
Right.
They're also more likely to be empathetic because they're understanding that the sister and younger brother have to have their needs paid attention to too. And
right.
So these are things that dads need to explain to mom and need to learn before they explain it.
Well, I think the dads and strong males are becoming obsolete. Dr. Farrell, can you hang on for a minute?
Yes.
All right. If you have a question about raising boys, the role of men today, and whatever happened to a strong male influence, Dr. Farrell will take your calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And we continue on. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Dr. Warren Farrell joins us to talk a little bit about men and boys. I still, it's funny, Dr. Farrell, you go back and watch some of the old movies in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and you have the defined role of, the macho man. Today, that's not the case. Let's talk a little bit about the influence of video games and YouTube and social media on young men. Good or bad?
For the most part, bad. What is really clear when I did the research for the boy crisis, one of the things I discovered was that 2 things. One was that a certain amount of involvement in video games is good for the brain, good for flexibility, good for being able to be agile. But the degree to which the average boy plays it, which is 13 hours versus the average girl, 5 hours a week, at the 5 to 9 hour a week level, video games are really quite healthy in terms of brain development. To say nothing, that which is different from the values that you get associated with in video games. The level that boys often enter into it, and particularly boys that are not successful in school or in sports or activities, the ones that don't learn the postponed gratification, they often go to the video games and they move into a video game addiction level. That the video game addiction level, 14, 15 hours a week or more, you start getting boys to disconnecting from real life contact with other boys and girls. You start getting them, the brain starts having a decrease in gray matter. The dopamine is stimulated only by things that are extremely exciting outside of the regular norm of excitement, so therefore classroom becomes boring, therefore you don't concentrate as well, therefore you get bad grades. And then what I call in the boy crisis, the slippery slope begins to happen. And the slippery slope is where the boy is not getting respect from teachers, not getting admired by other boys and girls, and not getting prideful parents at home. And so there's no dopamine coming to the boy's brains from compliments and valuing him at school or at home. And so the boy starts getting that dopamine fix from video games that then becomes addictive. Then when it becomes boy-girl time, that gets transferred to a combination of video game addiction combined with video porn. And the video porn makes the boy excited only when the girl takes more and more the virtual girl does more and more risky things. And so when he finally gets together with his real life girl, the girl feels treated like an object, rejects him, and then that makes him more depressed and returns him to more video game addiction and video porn addiction.
All right, let's get to it here. Hang on, Dr. Farrell. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave.
Jim Duthie.
And more with Dr. Farrell. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So, people joke about porn all the time on popular television or sitcoms at work. I've never really found the appeal of it that people seem to have, or to even out themselves or to get busted at work viewing the porn. Based on your research, what's the psychology behind the porn addiction?
Well, the underlying desire on the part of porn is that porn gives boys and young men access to a variety of attractive women without the fear of rejection that normally comes when they reach out to the more attractive women, that particularly if the boy is not like the quarterback or the student body president or really standing out in some way or extremely handsome, extremely tall. The girls and women at school that he's attracted to are usually attracted to somebody else, and so he fears rejection. So the porn gives him access to a variety of attractive women without that fear of rejection at a price he can afford, because he soon learns that, taking out a girl is not just asking out the girl and risking rejection, it's also double jeopardy. He then oftentimes feels he has to pay for her drinks, pay for her dinner, drive over, pick her up, and then if he's successful at paying for everything like that, he then ends up paying for the diamond. And so he sort of begins to feel like porn is a lot easier way to having access. The problem is that it increases the dopamine, that is your feel-good drug inside your brain, and only when you're taking getting a more beautiful woman who's airbrushed, and the average woman you're attracted to can't stand up to that level of beauty, and then when that boy sees hand-holding, let's say, which might be exciting to him in real life, or touching a woman's breast, which might be exciting in real life, that just becomes, after a while, it becomes something you get desensitized to. So you have to move to increased levels of risk with that girl until the real-life experience with a girl is not comparing to to what is happening, and it's not exciting his brain in the same way the porn does, but the porn is way out of line with what you're likely to have happen in real life, and so it makes the boy more and more, less and less successful with real women in real life.
What would you say to someone that would say, oh, that's just harmless? Porn is harmless.
Well, that's why we do good. When I did the research for the boy crisis, I started to really investigate this. Is this harmless? Is this just some type of judgment that's being put on this from a moral perspective? And the truth is, a very small amount of porn, not a big problem. It's like drinking a small amount of wine or scotch or whatever. But taking it in more than a minimal amount really does deaden the brain to being responsive to real life girls in real life ways. It ruins your emotional intelligence, your way of communicating and being excited by small little nuances of flirtation, which does not happen a great deal in porn except in a very artificial way. And in real life, flirtation with someone is an exciting dance, like a tango, and it's very nuanced. And those nuances are your brain, because of the gross changes that are expected. Your brain does not is the gray matter and the dopamine in your brain is deadened by the addiction to porn.
Dr. Farrell, we appreciate you. The title of your book one more time?
The Boy Crisis, and it's probably easiest to get on Amazon in the sense that it's right at this moment it's on a 30% discount on Amazon, so it's probably the cheapest way to get it quickly.
Dr. Farrell, we'd love to have you back. I know you're in California, but one day we'd love to get you on in the 6 o'clock hour. We'd love to have you back. Thank you, sir.
It would be a pleasure. I just enjoyed my time in Sun Valley very recently and have real fond experiences in Idaho.
Well, all you people are moving here.
Maybe I'll be up there one day.
Take care, sir. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Excellent work there, Dr. Farrell. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
Congratulations to Linda in Meridian for winning the family 4-pack, friendly 4-pack, unfriendly 4-pack to the Albertsons Boise Open featuring Cheap Trick. You can go any day, or you can go to see Cheap Trick Friday night. A lot of things going on today here on KIDO Talk Radio. Tomorrow, we will be once again promoting our school, securing our futures, thanks to CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. We will be at Compass Public Charter School in Meridian, Idaho. Looking forward to catching up with all those folks at Compass. If you would like your school profiled, we're filling up, but we still are looking for either middle schools or high schools. You can always send your old pal Kevin Miller an email, Kevin at KIDO Talk Radio. That's Kevin at KIDOTalkRadio.com. We sure look forward to hearing what you have to say and profiling the good works in education. And look, talk radio that makes a difference. There are a lot of people that, we criticize and stuff, but what are we for? Well, we're for the community. We're for the military, the first responders, the nonprofits, the schools. The list continues to grow and grow and grow, and that's what it's all about. We're waiting on Jared Halpern to join us from Fox News Radio to give us the latest from Capitol Hill, and they'll give me a little amount of time here to remind you again, and this is a really good deal, your chance to win Kevin Miller's cash. That's right. Kevin Miller's cash. Listen at 6 a.m., 8 a.m. to Kevin Miller, or 3 p.m. to Sean Hannity. And when you hear the code word, type in the code word at KIDOTalkRadio.com. The more words you get, the more opportunities you have to win up to $5,000. And that, my friends, would be great. I'm trying to think of what you could do. You could go on a great vacation. You could pay off some bills. You could go out to eat several times. But mostly, I think most of us would probably pay off some bills. In addition to that, oh, that's right, I have my last pair of tickets to give away. Thank you, Ray Mai, for reminding me that. We have our final 4-pack. When you hear Cheap Trick, caller number 12. Caller 12 at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. When you hear Cheap Trick, caller 12, you'll win 4 passes to see either Cheap Trick Friday night, or you can go to Golf Friday and then stay the whole day at Hillcrest Country Club, or you can go any day. The web tour starts today, and it's always a big event. It's a great way to finish off the summer, the Albertsons Boise Open. Remember, caller 12 when you hear Cheap Trick with Kevin Miller. So that is going on. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit about the new Apple iPhone, but more importantly, getting back to faith. Getting back to when you have people in high positions, either secular, religious, or what have you, that don't live up to their expectations, right? See, to me, that's such a deal breaker. And I psychologically don't understand how people can just espouse something and then not live it. Right? That's number one. Number two, boy, that Dr. Farrell hitting it out of the park when we're examining the role of boys. And it's very easy. You know, if you start saying, I'm a male rights activist, then what happens? Well, you're a sexist. It's like being a nationalist. I love America. You're a nationalist. What's wrong with loving America? Right? What's wrong with that? And so getting back to the defense of boys, the defense of men, and we see it in our popular culture. You know, there's an ad on the radio where people will sit back and say, well, men today aren't manly. Men today aren't this. Men today aren't as macho. And if you take this male enhancement supplement, you'll be good to go. Right? Again, as we had when we were kids, attention to detail, attention to doing what's right. And maybe in the West, it's a little different. They call it living by the cowboy code, if you will. You know, people sit back and you do the right things. Now, it's very easy to espouse doing the right things, but sometimes you have to make tough decisions. Sometimes you have to sit back and say, this is going to hurt, but I'm going to do the right thing. And what happens when we do that? We grow from it. We become better people. You know, you don't have to be Tony Robbins to understand sometimes being uncomfortable makes a difference. Sometimes being uncomfortable makes us better people. And those lessons, the consequences, and everything else, we're just going to move on. Let's go to Tea Party Bob. Tea Party Bob, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Interesting conversation. You know, I would like to know why the faithful parishioners of the Catholic Church have allowed these crimes to be perpetrated on their children for so long without a complete uprising.
Well, they didn't know about it.
Well, you know, they did know about it. The church knew about it, and the church never said anything. These are things
right,
that are
but when you're saying
quiet.
the parishioners never knew about it. You know when they knew about it is when the Boston Globe broke the story.
Exactly. Yeah, but why have we waited so long to have any kind of retribution?
Well, because the church told everybody they took care of it. Now we have allegations out of Pennsylvania that they haven't, that it's continuing.
Yeah, but these have been going on for decades. You know, and they just keep sweeping this stuff under the rug, pretending it never took place, making obscure excuses for these criminals.
Right, and you're not talking about all Catholics. You're talking about the people in power.
Yes.
And you have people that make the charges. Some people, very fearful, did not want. Look at the women with Les Moonves. Wait a minute, let me finish. And Les Moonves was just their boss. Imagine someone that you trust spiritually doing this. You maybe tell somebody, maybe you don't. And all of a sudden they look at you because the benefit of the doubt goes to the person in power. And then when it does happen, look, we have all shared personal experiences where we've had people that we've known or have been impacted by this. I've shared my experience from time to time, and it is a crisis of faith. Why was this covered up? You'd have to talk to the Vatican. You'd have to talk to those cardinals and bishops that swept everything under the rug.
Don't they realize that this has been driving people away from the church for years? You know, we wonder why the attendance keeps going down lower and lower. You know, if you have dirty laundry, it's best to wash it, not stick it in a corner and pretend it doesn't exist.
Now, wait a minute. You've worked in big money corporations. You've sat across the table from Donald Trump. That's not hyperbole. That's the truth. How many times have major corporations, when they've done something wrong that you may know or not know, have said, okay, full transparency, we're bad people, or do they just kind of move along?
They all try to screw us and put it under the rug. They're not telling us the truth. Look at the pharmaceutical companies. For years and years, they keep telling us how wonderful these drugs are. People go and take them, and they wind up with all kinds of complications. No, they don't tell the truth either. We have a big problem in this country. Nobody wants to tell the truth anymore. And when you get somebody like Trump in who tells the truth, everybody says, liar, liar, pants on fire.
Well, he does have, he tells the truth, but, he does have some creative license sometimes.
Well, everybody has creative license, but lying is lying.
Not everybody is the president.
Look, if there was proper retribution.
You brought up the president, I didn't. You brought up the president,
yes,
I didn't.
Yes, I know. I did do that. If you don't have proper retribution for the crimes that are committed on these unsuspected children, you're never going to change anything.
Well, and here's the thing that gets me. And I covered David Zubek, the Bishop of Pittsburgh. Seemed like a great guy, and I was talking to a coworker about this yesterday. But his attitude when George Stephanopoulos caught him, okay, here's somebody, and basically what it came down to is you had a victim who was abused by a priest, and so they had a settlement. And the coldness that this victim was dealt with, okay, we're going to pay for your college tuition, sign this non-disclosure agreement, and you can never, ever come back for more money, as if money would cure the trauma. And David Zubek, Bishop Zubek, gave a non-denial denial. And I'm thinking to myself, where was God's love there? Tough questions.
Well, where were his morals and his ethics?
Well, dealing with that victim.
Well, the question is, why do we even have to deal with these victims? I mean, you have to wonder if the reason we have so much pedophilia isn't because the priests aren't permitted to marry and have families. And that's been brought up many times.
No.
You don't think so?
I disagree because, and this is my bias, and we talk, we're not just talking about the Catholic Church. We're talking about all churches. We're talking about Les Moonves. We're talking about people in power. And what folks don't get is there are thousands, literally thousands of people that live within their vows, nuns and priests, that follow the teachings of the church. Now, when something bad happens, everybody is all lumped into that. When I worked in the South, well, Catholic Church is a cult. They looked at us always suspicious, that kind of thing. But this is an organization that does good works. Now, do I agree with it all the time? No. Do they agree with Kevin Miller all the time? Probably not. Not even I agree with myself. But you go down to what's missing in the story is the wonderful works that are going on here locally. Look, we had Father Fauché, ex-Father Fauché, got busted by the police. So abhorrent were his crimes, that he pled out, and they didn't mess around. They just yanked him, and he was out on parole, and they revoked that. And this was right here in the Treasure Valley.
But don't you think the Pope more than that?
Well, and the Pope goes back to saying it's the devil. Well, it may be the devil, but you can tell the devil no. And you're more powerful than the devil.
Well, look,
I don't think if Father Fauché was married, he still would have not done those things, in my personal opinion.
Well, you can't change human nature. If people have a proclivity to do these things, they're going to do them.
Then you don't have them in the church.
Absolutely. But if they do get in the church and they do these things, then you have to have the proper retribution and not send them to some far corner of the world seminary where you never hear from them again.
And they do the same things, and that's what the Catholic Church did for years, unfortunately.
I know. Anyway, thanks a lot for your show, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Keep doing your good work.
Yeah, right back at you there, buddy.
Take care.
God bless Tea Party Bob.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Spirited debate, as always. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, but it comes down to people behaving badly. And even the Me Too girls, you have them that have had their indiscretions with underage people. What is going on? That's the reason why we build this community, and we continue to try to expand it each and every morning to let you know that you're not alone, that you are part of something greater, that traditional American conservative values exist. And we love to shine that mirror on you for doing your great works. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio time is 8:53. Don't forget, Compass Public Charter School. We will be there tomorrow promoting our school, securing our future. Thanks to our friends at CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. We go to the moral compass of the Treasure Valley, Pro-Life, with good old Kay Milley on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life.
Yeah, well, the moral compass wants to talk about the Me Too girls, and you know darn well that the majority of the women that had sex with the chief executives, they did that voluntarily. They did that, and maybe even in a seductive way, so that they could get a better position within the organization. And you know, if one of these chief executives was smart, he'd go back and list and remember all of those women, and then he would say, you know, before they caught him, before it was exposed, he would say, listen, all of these women seduced me, and they should get, you know, some kind of retribution. These are bad women. I got seduced by these women. And, you know, then he would list all of them. And
Huh?
What do you think about that?
I don't know. You've totally lost me.
No, how can you get lost on that? I mean, the women, they participate, and now then they say that we were forced into this. We were, you know, we were going to lose our jobs if we didn't have sex with the boss. And in reality, it isn't like that, I don't think. I think it's the other way, that it was mutual agreement to have sex. And then and the women were doing that so that they didn't want to have sex with ugly Weinstein guy, but they knew that if they did, then they could get a part in a movie or something. And Weinstein should have been smarter and said, hey, this is all the women that seduced me.
So you don't find Harvey Weinstein attractive?
No, he isn't attractive, and the women aren't attractive. Nobody's attractive if they're sexually immoral. They're very unattractive. A person that uses sex for anything but for love and procreation and marriage, they're not attractive people. I don't know what you think about that, but
You've got me speechless. I'm still trying to comprehend. You blame the women.
No, I say that they're just as...
it takes two to tango.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It takes two to create this sin. Unless it really is forcible rape, and it isn't. It's obvious. But nobody wants to go into the angle that I'm saying, and it's obviously true.
Wow.
So anyway...
Well, what do you think about the Pope blaming the devil?
Well, it's true. I mean, you can listen to the devil, and to say that there isn't a devil, now that's a big lie.
No, we didn't say there isn't a devil, but those people are responsible for their actions. You know...
Oh, yeah.
You're a man of faith.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think my own moral compass for people is that when I meet St. Peter, I have to be judged. And there are a lot of things that are that I've done that I'm ashamed of, and we're all flawed individuals. Those people that don't believe they're flawed are truly delusional, but and we've all had trauma and tragedy in our lives, but you don't allow them to dictate those behaviors. So if somebody said to me, Kevin, this is what's going on, it's going to cost you your livelihood, but you do the right thing, I would like to think, and I'd like to pray that I would do the right thing no matter what the sacrifice. And I'm just a person like you. At a higher level, you have a higher responsibility to protect the flock, do you not?
Yeah, absolutely. And but you know, when you do the right thing within a church, there's no retribution.
Well, there is. Pro-Life, I've got to run. Traffic is here. Good morning, Dave. Thanks, Jim. Congratulations to Brian in New Plymouth winning those tickets. Terry, you're going to bring us home. We've got about 30 seconds. They're yours, sir.
Kevin, I just want to commend you. I know when our foundations are shaken and rocked like they are, it's very difficult to confront them. And you did that. You know, the Catholic Church is certainly your background, and it takes a lot of man to step up to the plate like that and say, hey, you know, I share a certain amount of responsibility here simply because I didn't say anything, or whatever the case may be. So I commend you for that. I think it takes a lot of heart, a lot of courage to do that, Kevin.
Thank you, Terry.